So where were you when Princess Diana died?
I was in front of TV, watching breakfast TV shows, and I guess the whole thing just like interrupted a crucial scene in Techno Man. Did you get that show over here?
No, what?
Techno Man.
Techno Man.
You know, where the family's on the spaceship and they get intercepted by aliens, and the family gets abducted and put into like sacks and genetically modified, and then they get those crystals and they can put those superhuman suits on. Yeah.
No, none of that.
Techno Man.
No, none of that sounded close to familiar.
Yeah, none of that sounded close to me.
Is that?
I'll have to educate you.
Is this a real TV show?
Yeah. Anime, bro.
Oh, it's anime.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not live action.
It's not. Well, it felt live action. It was so realistic.
It was that well drawn. You could feel the characters just leaping off the screen.
Yeah, so I can just distinctly remember my mum changing the TV channel because there was something more important on. Then I was like...
Was it more exciting? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just showing a picture of Tech Man.
It
ends up... It's actually quite a angsty story because
right.
His whole family gets turned into robots like that, and him and his younger sister, I think, are the only ones that come out still intact, but the other ones have been corrupted. So basically, has to kill his entire family to save the planet. So it's good breakfast show for primary school children. You know,
is that
just showing that maybe one day you'll have to, take out your family in order to do what's right. That's at least what I took away from it. So I just never developed close relationships with my family after watching the show, just in case, because I saw how difficult it was for the main character.
It's very Nietzschean, I guess, to the idea of superseding your parents. So maybe that's where they were drawing inspiration from.
Yeah,
very very high level philosophy for a kids' morning TV show starring robots.
Yeah, I think it...
was it Asian? Was it anime?
Yeah. It's anime, yeah. So Japanese, I think.
Well, they're very advanced people.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it just sort of gave me the blueprint for my sort of adult personality and how to,
fight robots.
Yeah. How to set out my life just in case aliens attacked.
That's almost as good as a zombie plan. Which we've talked about.
Well, that came later. That came later in life. That one. I don't think zombies were around.
The zombie meme came later.
Yeah.
What?
The meme? You mean the potential threat?
Sure. Well, memes are potential threats.
Yeah.
Memes of violence.
Yeah.
As we found out, as we've been told by mainstream media.
Yeah, I think the Harambe one was the most hurtful one of all.
Harambe
sent shockwaves through the community.
I still feel sad about Harambe because largely I have to agree with Martin Shkreli that it's all fun and games to say that you had to shoot the gorilla to save the baby, but I'm just not sure that was the right way around.
I mean, at what point do children have to start taking responsibilities for actions?
Well, my point is that was a fully grown gorilla where it was only a child, so really in terms of investment, the zoos made more of an investment in the gorilla than the parents having that child at that point. So
yeah, I mean, they probably let that child in for free, so they probably wouldn't even make any money out of the child.
Exactly. So I feel like the gorilla was wasted.
Yeah.
It was speciesism.
There was no indication that child was going to grow up to be anything special. I don't think there was anything in the backstory that...
Well, I mean, it claim to fame is I survived the gorilla attack. So...
Yeah.
It's how far you can ride that through life.
I mean, has he started doing talking tours and stuff like that?
The child or the gorilla?
Yeah, the child.
Oh,
well, the gorilla's probably in a 6 foot grave right now, is it? Did they cremate Harambe or was he buried?
He went directly to heaven.
The other gorillas feast on him.
He went directly to heaven like Ezekiel, I think. Just levitated on up.
Right, okay.
That's why he's in all those heaven memes.
Yeah, that's it. That's how he became a meme.
Well, that's how he became a demigod. Which we memed. I don't know about the kid. The kid is probably...
Cake magic.
The kid's probably, what, like 4 now, 5.
Yeah.
So
Do you reckon he dreams of gorillas?
I'm just. My point was going to be, if the kid's not speaking yet, then clearly they made the mistake on who
I
they
wonder if
shot.
some of Harambe's spirit got captured in the child.
I don't know. I don't know how that works. Is the child a soul stealer?
I know I've watched those horror movies when children get possessed.
By gorillas.
Well, not specifically.
Was that what was the name of that film? Gorillas in the Mist?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Which I always thought was a good title for a horror film.
Well, I felt the acting was childlike in that movie, so
Is that because
it was terrible.
Right. Okay. So we've got a couple of topics to cover today. First up is...
You never answered where you were.
Oh, I can't remember.
It's atrocious.
I literally can't remember or care.
When one of your royalty dies and you can't even...
Well, she was royalty adjacent at that point. That was post-divorce. So...
Right.
I mean, she was Princess Diana. She wasn't Queen Diana. Is my point.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a tough one. I mean,
What, figuring out whether you care or not?
well, exactly. I mean, if I'm
And
saying
if you do, then how much?
I'm saying if Prince Philip didn't want to stay married to her, then why do we have to stay sad about her?
It's hard to make room in your heart when when the death of Harambe is still so raw.
Not only Harambe, but they've been stuffing so much extra stuff in my heart, so there's just not a lot of room left in there. I got to really portion it out. It's like it's like night by night room bookings.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose we were going to talk about this little fight that happened the other day.
Was it a fight or was it a spectacle?
Yeah, I mean that moment when Mayweather sort of leant over in the clinch and started winking at people in the crowd. I kind of felt, got the impression that probably wasn't the most serious that he could have taken that fight. Having watched his other fights.
Well, fair play to him. He won.
Did win, yeah.
Mayweather won. It was a good fight to watch, actually. All things said, it was interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was a good fight.
I think my favourite moment of the fight was Mayweather trying to swat McGregor's hand out of his face. Just reminded me of sitting on a lake somewhere, swatting the wasps out, swatting the flies out of your face. It was I found that kind of I thought that was pretty good. That was probably my favourite part.
Well, the shame of it is that McGregor just ran out of steam.
Yeah.
Which is part of it. And at the end of the day, if you lose the fight because of that, you still lose the fight. But it's not exactly an exciting way for it to end, to have just one guy get tired and basically give up. He didn't himself give up, but I mean, as in his body gave up.
Yeah.
So fair play to him, but it was kind of not a particularly exciting way to end that. I mean, all you can really take out of that is that Mayweather's fitter.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I thought McGregor slipped, a lot of punches, so he wasn't providing an easy target for Mayweather to hit continuously. I mean, Mayweather's always pretty adept at doing the one punch counters, but he never really throws combinations too often. Probably as often as what he has in the past, but. He was trying to throw some combos in that fight, and McGregor was slipping him. But then, it sort of got to that seventh round, and then I think McGregor's like, I want to just stop dodging and just let him hit me because I couldn't be bothered moving. I've never seen someone get hit so much times and seem completely unfazed by it. In the sense of he wasn't getting wobbly. If I was getting hit by those punches.
Well, the discussion's always been that Mayweather's not huge in his power of his punches, and you could see that he wasn't taking him off his feet very easily with any of those punches, even after McGregor got tired. But it was still a case that it was the tiredness that really kicked in, and you could almost see it. it was funny because you could almost see it clicking in just after the end of, you could argue, the 7th or the 8th round, which would be kind of around that 25-minute mark of where the normal MMA bouts would have finished by then. So it was interesting to see that it was literally kind of on the dot when it got to that point. Everything just seemed to stop from McGregor, and then Mayweather had to just realize that. And once he realized that he wasn't going to get blocked as much, and McGregor didn't have the energy to hit him or counter him even, then the fight was over very, very, very quickly. There wasn't really a lot of grinding down.
So what did you think of Mayweather's tactic of showing McGregor his back and assuming the position? Have you seen that Titanic meme with McGregor behind Mayweather on the end of the Titanic in the wind?
No, that sounds amazing, but no. I think that opens up the wider question of, it's awkward talking about boxing along with MMA because boxing is such a constrained sport.
Yeah.
Whereas MMA, relatively speaking, isn't. And
MMA largely is a street fight sometimes.
Largely is a street fight. But the fact that you can have people effectively use that as a tactic to just get in front of you, and if they're feeling tired, they can take a knee and wait the fight out, and then if you hit them, you're the one breaking the rules, is a little weird.
And I guess that was probably Mayweather's whole point, was the whole fight he was trying to troll him and bait him and going, haha, you can't hit me, this is, I'm going to turn my back and, render you completely useless, or trying to suck you into, because I just wondered when he was putting his head against the chest, he was just, because you could see that muscle memory in McGregor, like he was fighting hard not to like put him into a submission or like throw him to the ground. When he was doing those like hammer punches to the back of the head, like he was getting into like kill mode, and then he had to catch himself and go, oh no, I can't do that, I have to let him get back up and start again. And I just wonder if Mayweather was, because there was big figures involved, and if he broke the rules, then it sort of opened him up to sort of litigation. I was just wondering if Mayweather was just trying to add another 100 million onto that fight, but I don't know. But
well, that's interesting, because it could be also the fact that, I don't know what's in their contract, but it could be that if they if they get disqualified from the match, let's say, then there could be something in the contract that says if you get disqualified, that there is some kind of forfeit. And that means that, eventually, I think absolutely Mayweather was doing that as a tactic. Whether it was a tactic to put him at risk financially or not, I don't know, possibly, but definitely it was a tactic to annoy him and to make it difficult for McGregor to be effective, and also to mock him a little bit, which is, I don't think worked to mock. In my eyes, McGregor, I think it actually worked to mock boxing, because it was a little bit stupid to see basically a grown man curl up into a ball in front of their opponent in the fetal position
and not get punished for it.
And apparently that was a totally legitimate tactic, and it was McGregor that was being told to leave him alone. Leave the guy who's supposed to be fighting alone. Why are you trying to hit him? What's wrong with you? You think you're in a fight?
Do you think there's anything?
Well, it's not a fight; it's a boxing match, which would be the obvious thing to say. But
yeah, do you think there's anything McGregor could have done differently? In hindsight,
massively. He had to have known that he didn't have it in the tank to do 12 rounds. He would have, at least if he hasn't done this, I can't imagine how stupid he would be to not have tried this, which is why I don't think he is stupid. So he must have gone in the ring with somebody just sparring and tried to spar for 12 rounds and seen what it felt like.
You obviously haven't been watching any of the build up to the fight. So he brought in a whole bunch of people, and the way he was doing it was he started off bringing in people for 6 rounds, and then he'd swap them out for someone else and do another 6 rounds. So he's been training, doing 12-round sparring sort of all the way up, probably till a week or so before the fight started, and there was a guy that came in called Paul. I can never get his name right, but Paul Magliani, and he's like a world championship boxer, and he was in the past had been talking a bit of shit about Mcgregor and mixed martial arts, and so they brought him in on a plane, and he got off the plane, went straight to the gym, and then they had a 12-round fight, and he was thinking it was a sparring session, and he basically went out and told everyone that he'd won, and so Dana White released 7 seconds of footage of McGregor knocking him down, and yeah, so he's been doing all that, and I think it comes back to sort of that little sort of brief chat we had after the fight around. I just, and going on McGregor's record, I just don't think genetically he has got the tank to fight for that long, and potentially because he's mostly 18 of his 21 wins have been by knockout, so he really on average doesn't go the full length of a fight in MMA. So in that sense, he hasn't trained to fight. And even in that Nate Diaz too, if you watch the full fight, there's parts where he's actually walking away from Diaz because he's so tired, and Diaz is following him around the ring. So in that one, he's trying to conserve energy, because he hits that wall. And then I think you can train for 8 months or however it was before this fight to fight 12 rounds by sparring people for 12, but to actually then get in and do the real thing after 8 months of training, his body either one genetically isn't built for it, and 2, 8 months is just not long enough to build up a tank like that. Just to switch so quickly. Whereas like Mayweather just was fresh as a daisy the whole way through. It was, everyone's going, oh, he's 40 years old, but he looked a little bit slower than he has when you watch his fights when he's younger. But in terms of how fresh he was, he wasn't tired.
His speed might have been slightly dulled, or maybe even he was not wanting to use it as much. But yeah, his fitness definitely wasn't anywhere else. It was right on point. My point was about McGregor's training is that there you go. Like you've just said, he must have been doing that kind of training and known how tired he would get, and maybe he didn't push himself hard enough and realize that it was an issue, which is then his fault, or he pushed it and thought, I feel a little bit tired at the end, but I think I'll be fine, and didn't bank on if he got tired in the end against a very capable fighter, then that fighter would exploit it, which again is kind of his fault. But ultimately, he had to have ways to figure out that he's at a disadvantage fitness-wise. And if you think you're at a disadvantage fitness-wise, then why would you want to go the distance?
Yeah, it's
almost like your chances of losing go up 100-fold. So why would you be then even bothering to play in that space, that probability space, because you're going to be pulling out losses. So what he could have done differently, in my opinion, is that he should have just gone all out and just tried to get a knockout very early in the fight. And maybe he did, and maybe that's all he could do, and maybe he started the fight and then tried to go all out, and then very, very quickly was finding that he wasn't quite connecting as easy as he thought, and then thought, well, if I'm not going to be able to connect easy and make the knockout straight away, then I don't want to tire myself out after a few rounds, because then I'll look... Potentially he'll look stupid, but then, at the end of the day, you've got to be trying to win, not worried about so much your image. We'd be sitting here dissecting his strategy. We wouldn't be saying, well, we might be saying he was stupid to go too hard, too fast. But at the end of the day, again, you flip that on its head again and say, well, if he went really, really hard from the beginning and knocked him out, then we'd be sitting here going, yeah, amazing fight. Can't believe McGregor won.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You can't really tell these things. But what I know is that he did fail this way, and it's strange for someone who likes knockouts to have tried to go the distance, if that's what he actually did.
Well, I mean, you look at that first, the first sort of couple of moments where they sort of traded a few punches and glancing hits, and like McGregor planted that uppercut on his chin. And you could see it. You could see Mayweather was like surprised, like, you know, he got him. I've seen McGregor hit people, obviously in the UFC, like Jose Aldo, the like undefeated world champion for, I think, featherweight or welterweight or whatever it was for years, was just knocked out in 13 seconds, where he feinted the right and then went in for the left, and McGregor just like clipped him on the chin and he was gone. Like, and you know, that was that same thing. Well, that punch went into like McGregor's like left tit. It was like a right to his left tit, and he just like snuck in the right uppercut, and like it's like whipped Mayweather's head back. But you know, he didn't stop. Like, he came straight back. So you know, Mayweather's never really got hit, but you know, maybe he's got a big chin in there anyway, and it's like going to take a lot more to knock him out. I don't know, but you know, I would have thought maybe McGregor, after he landed that punch, was like, actually knocking this guy out is going to be tougher than what I thought, or I don't know. I'd have to like maybe watch the fight a bit more to sort of see how it went, but or maybe it sort of, yeah.
It could be exactly that. That was what I was thinking, that maybe he thought to do that from the start, and then something discouraged him and he changed tactics halfway through. Not sure, but I mean, in your view, what do you think about, could he have put more gas on in the first, you know, let's say 3 or 4 rounds? Like, do you think in sort of those first few rounds he was already conserving energy, or was he actually going all out and then switched over tactics later on?
Yeah. So I just don't know, because he for the whole build up he was saying, I'm going to knock him out within 4 rounds. So maybe, you know, maybe he was just sort of, you know, like getting into him, and then that 4th round he was going to like come out and go for it, or I don't know, but yeah, maybe he just changed his tactic, or maybe there was some other motives there, that he actually wanted to see if he could go the distance with him, and he just didn't want to knock him out, and wanted to, you know, because I think for McGregor as well, like if you listen to him talk after fights, before fights, about fighting, he's very much like, he's pretty intelligent when it comes to fighting styles and adapting and incorporating things, and as I said to you the other night, like when you watch him fight, like he does mix up a lot of stuff more so than other fighters, and I think he just thought, you know, I'm so good at mixed martial arts that boxing is just one form of fighting, and if I can master all the others, then I'll master this. But I mean, being a jack of all trades, you know, likely means you're going to be master of none. I don't know. So honestly, I agree with you. I reckon he should just went in and just tried to kill him. He should just gone in for the kill.
Got him for the high knees.
And, you know, like, yeah, I think he would have had to have known that he wouldn't have lasted the full fight. Like, how could he not know? Because he knows in every, unless it's something he's just like in denial about, and maybe he's finally waking up to it, because he gassed in the Diaz fight in the 2nd round. Was it the 2nd round? When he got submissed? So he got hit as well, maybe, but you know, he was
getting tired, yeah. Which, yeah, if you think about those fights, got longer rounds, so you're talking sort of more like 9 or 10 minutes in.
Yeah, and I think he went after Nate Diaz in that 1st round and just couldn't knock him out, because Nate Diaz is a fucking animal. And I think he sort of underestimated that, went too quick. In the 2nd fight, they went the distance, the full 5 rounds. And I think McGregor paced himself a lot more, even though he knocked him down. He like made his punches count more. But yeah. So anyway, yeah, I reckon he should just went harder. He should have realised his limitations and adapted that. Whereas Mayweather played his strategy was go in there, let him win the first 3 or 4 rounds, and then come out and dominate and knock him out when he's gassed. And you know, he did that. So credit to him. 50 zilch.
Yeah, 50 and 0.
But yeah,
he's got to be a great fighter just by looking at the stats alone.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and what was weird about that fight is that, talking about boxing and MMA more generally, is I just didn't understand what was the point of that fight, other than, providing a spectacle and making money, obviously. But it was, picking somebody who is at the very, very, very top of the boxing game and putting them against someone good in MMA, but someone who is essentially a novice at boxing.
Yeah.
What exactly is it proving? Because at the end of this fight, there's really two things that you could actually take away from that, and that is that, one, if it was an MMA fight, I don't think there's any doubt who would win at all.
No doubt.
And if this was a boxing fight, well, Mayweather won. All right. So
yeah, if it was an MMA fight, McGregor would have came straight up and just started roundhouse kicking him to the thighs and to the groin, and just would have destroyed his legs. And then as soon as he falled over, he would have been on top of him, pounding the shit out of him.
But that's my point. So really, the billing for this fight was just strange, because if it's just a spectacle and just like a weird cross-discipline grudge match or whatever, then fine, that's what it is. But if it's meant to be anything else, and there are people kind of saying implicitly that it's something else, it's the whole boxing pedigree versus the MMA, whatever you want to call it, the lack of finesse of MMA, then I don't know what it was supposed to prove. I don't think it proved anything. I think all you could say from that is that, yeah, just on pure skill of 50 fights alone and having much better composure, Mayweather won a boxing match. And if it was an MMA match, it would be probably even more farcical and much easier for McGregor to have wiped the floor. It wouldn't even happen. So it's just a very weird match to have happened. It was a very weird match to watch. I think the only reason it was based on boxing rules, and this goes back to the beginning, is that it was because of the money. So great.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the money. Let's look at the outside of that grudge match side of it. So McGregor just made what I don't think his side of the deal was as big as Mayweather's. But anyway, McGregor now talks about he's got forever money now. So because of this fight, it's put him in that bracket where he actually doesn't have to worry about money anymore. So for him, right, irrespective, it's something that's going to set him up for life. For Mayweather, who is sitting on 49-0, it's now put his record into 50-0, and he's just made a boatload more cash. So, irrespective of everything else, all the other noise, both fighters, Mayweather's got his clean 50-0 record that'll go down the history books, and McGregor's set up for life financially. I think that's probably at the heart of why those two agreed to fight each other.
Right, which is fine. But then it's essentially, we just watched a business transaction where Mayweather people were fleeced. People were fleeced for the benefit.
They still got to enjoy it. If you enjoyed the fight, then you enjoyed the fight.
I mean, it was enjoyable enough.
It's whether you think that enjoyment's relative to what those guys made out of it.
Right. It was just a weird fight.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So my point is that
McGregor didn't get the deal that he wanted out of the fight. Like, it wasn't the best deal he could have got. He would have preferred to have knocked him out and won. But he walked out in the press conference drinking his new line of whiskey that he's releasing, and was advertising it after the fight. Well, and so
I can completely appreciate the money aspect to it, and that in itself is the beginning and end of the argument. Because if your argument is, well, it made money, then yeah, that begins and ends, and it's a completely watertight argument, and there's nothing else you need to justify whatsoever. But if you're wanting to have and you'll see this on every forum post about MMA or boxing, and this is where people actually get stuck into it, which is the whole pedigree of the sports, or what it means for the sports, or how the sports compare to each other, etc. Then let's quickly have that discussion, because then there is actually something to discuss here, and that is, what did this fight prove? And my point is that it proved absolutely nothing, and yet it was billed, or at least a lot of people built it up as it was supposed to prove something. What would have been an interesting fight, in a sense, would have been if they got Mayweather to do something that wasn't boxing, and they got McGregor to do something that wasn't MMA.
Yeah, what would be the control?
So I don't know what that would be. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that would be jousting or Aikido or medieval reenactment, hand to hand combat. Yeah, whatever they call
wrestling or something like that. Yeah.
Right. But it sounds stupid. But the point is, it's like, okay, well, if you've got two athletes at the top of your games and you want to compare those athletes, you kind of then have to have a control scenario or a neutral scenario, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Otherwise, you might as well have a gymnast in Formula One to see how well they do, or a top performing golfer in chess, see how they would do. It's like, I don't know. Those are kind of a bit.
I think they should have settled it like men: 100-meter sprint.
100. Well, we all know who'd have won that. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird. It was a bit of a weird way that it was being built up, because I think the boxing guys were saying, yeah, well, Mayweather's going to win, and that's going to show you how much better boxing is. It's like, yeah, but it's boxing rules, so yeah. Of course I'd expect Mayweather to win. I should hope he would win. If Mayweather was to lose, I would say wrap up boxing.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't happen. But it's
boxing, the boxing fraternity are easily triggered at the best of times. So so in that sense, a lot of people got to have fun from that sense. But
it's not just that. I'm not saying pro boxing or pro MMA. I'm saying that the fact that discussion was being had could have been good if the fight was in a way that was somehow equalized. But the fact that we were having the discussion around a non-equalized fight made it very, very stupid. Made the whole thing just seem stupid.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to the hype argument, doesn't it? That the fact that they could pit the two off each other just was like, yeah, we're going to make money out of this, because we know what's going to happen. It's going to draw the UFC crowd into the boxing crowd, which is going to mean massive amounts of numbers, and there you go.
Money
Mayweather. It's literally his stage name, or what do they call it? Boxing name, or your
porn star name? What?
Porn star name.
Yeah, is that his porn star name?
Yeah.
Money Shot Mayweather.
Yeah, Money Shot Mayweather.
Is that it? If in doubt, the answer in life is probably money.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I think it sort of solidified for me how much more I enjoy watching UFC than boxing. Unless they're boxing matches between two superstars, I can sit down and watch a whole bunch of UFC fights, but
they're less monotonous.
They don't find boxing as enjoyable.
They're less monotonous. Yeah. There's more variety.
Yeah, I just love those ground and pounds. Nothing more satisfying than seeing someone's face get pounded in the dirt. So don't forget on your back, bro. That's the don't show me your back. That's it.